This video introduces an informal classroom assessment called the Muddiest Point. It will look at how and when it can be used during a course with adult learners. In the interest of giving credit where credit is due, you may notice some small numbers and letters. If you want to delve deeper on a subject or an image blows your mind, make note of the number or letter and find its source at the end of this video. There are several reasons to use the muddy point. The first is to figure out what parts of a lesson students are having difficulty with. The quicker they are identified, the more time there is to address them. The instructor can adjust future lessons and correct the gaps or errors. Students may veer off course or get stuck in an eddy, but the instructor can guide them back to the river. When the students know they will be asked for their muddiest point, it can help them to ignore the distractions from peers, socials, or even wildlife, and focus on the new material at hand. This assessment is best used to provide a snapshot of larger groups of students. It should be used when there is margin to address the muddy points. If you don't have time to address them, it isn't meaningful for the students, even if you'd review it later and improve future delivery. The muddy point is most effective when assessing content that is a lower level according to Bloom's taxonomy. It is easier for students to articulate what is confusing about basic concepts or data, rather than identifying what they don't understand during critical thinking or other higher level synthesis. There are principles that guide the process of the muddy point. The first is that we want to assess the student's grasp of a specific knowledge in order to improve instruction. We want to know if they get the basic idea, understand with perfect clarity, or are somewhere on that gradient. The second and third principles are student-centered learning and formative feedback. The gist of these is that the students always know how they are doing and what they need to work on during the course. There is much more information to be found online if you'd like to know more about these principles. The first step of the muddy point is to get data. How will you find out what is muddy for the students? The easiest way is to give them an index card and ask them to write it down. Then you can collect the cards and review them later. However, you may need to clarify what you mean by muddiest point. You want them to identify what is most confusing for them about the new material you just discussed. If your audience is tech savvy, as most are now, they may find this method boring. If that's the case, meet them where they're at and use their own technology. You can collect your muddy point data by inserting a survey into your presentation. With this example, students can scan the QR code or enter the code on the website and submit their answers. The second step is to analyze the data. Where's the mud? Is it concentrated or dispersed? How many students responded? Are there common themes, or are they all confused about different topics? Where do we focus our time and energy? Out of the 7 topics around plant health, the students in this example are confused most about soil and nutrients. Soil quality is mentioned in the lesson, but it is covered in depth by another course. After explaining this to students, the instructor can focus on the nutrients. Step 3 is to design the feedback. How will you address the muddy points you've selected? Will you repeat the lesson, explain it in a different way, or go deeper into the topic? Will you address the entire class, small groups, or meet with individuals? Do you have time to spare during class, or should it be an asynchronous source? If you create some online content, the students can view it outside of class, and it would be helpful to use possibly for future courses. Step 4 is to deliver the feedback. When you address a muddy point, explicitly state your intention. This gives the exercise validity and may increase participation. If you create a follow-up lesson, highlight that it's a muddy point. It shows that you have read through the muddy points and keeps students from thinking that you've forgotten that you already spoke about that topic before. If you have resources related to the muddy point, show the students exactly where to find them. As in everything, the muddy point has its limitations. It may be challenging for the students to come up with something when they are first introduced to it. Using it multiple times during the course may help the students gain comfort with it. Since the muddy point is usually voluntary and not for grades, it can be difficult to get a significant number of responses in order to gain a true snapshot of the class. Also, if the topic is muddy because it is something in which you are not well versed, this assessment could lead to some difficult questions from the students. So just be prepared. The muddy point focuses on what is confusing rather than what is understood, so this can be demoralizing for students. Also, there are some arguments that having the students repeat what is misunderstood can cause them to remember this more. One way to address both those challenges is to alternate the muddy point with the practice of having the students share their prime takeaway or aha moments. One of the prime advantages of the muddy point is that with little preparation time, one can quickly and simply get a snapshot of a large group of students. Additionally, it can be a lifeline for students who are missing a key concept necessary for their success in the course. From a course perspective, repeated occurrences of the same muddy point may identify the need for new content, references, or textbooks. Many instructors have used the muddy point, and I will highlight a few of the best practices. Tell the students in advance to help them focus on what they understand and what they don't. Provide time for the response. If it's not important enough for you, the students won't value it either. Create a method to prioritize the muddy points. In this matrix, the fuzzy topics that affect the most students and that are vital to the course must be addressed. Muddy points that affect few students or are not required for success in the course may be dismissed. Quoting or paraphrasing the students is another way of demonstrating the validity of the muddy point. It can normalize the practice and help students realize that they are not the only confused ones. If separate muddy point exercises are too onerous, you can automate it using most learning platforms. In this example, the questionnaire relates directly to the content from one class, and this form can be used over multiple weeks and semesters. You can have the students contribute anonymously. However, if you tie it to each student, you can provide an incentive for bonus marks or participation credits. This can greatly increase the level of student participation. There are so many resources for the muddy point. If you are interested, these references can lead you down the rabbit hole of informal learning assessments. I hope you have gained something from this video. Thank you very much for watching.